Hey, it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a very important aspect of trying to hold on to, cling, or maintain a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath long after the time is due for you to let go of that relationship. Just depersonalize yourself or remove yourself from that person, desensitize yourself from that experience. In sense, sort of deactivate the relationship or the damage that has been caused. And it doesn't mean to just forget about the relationship, but it's how to extract yourself and remove the repetitive cycle of hypervigilance and hyperarousal that can come with the relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath. In other words, the constant repeating over and over and over again, what did I do wrong? Am I never going to love again? All these self-berating questions that tend to become as an after effect or a result of a relationship with a narcissist, because it is very much not something that you have done to cause the rift or the error in the relationship, the unhappiness, the unfulfillment. It is really more a shortcoming on the narcissist or the psychopath side. In other words, because of their pathological sense of self-importance, their hyper-attendance to their needs, their hyper-security, it creates, their hyper sensitivity to getting their own needs met, and their pathology or fear or insecurity at such. It then instills a hypervigilance, a fight or flight or fear, sort of hyper-arousal state in those individuals who they tend to come in contact with and are with them for a long period of time. Even for a couple months, you can enter into this hypervigilant state, hyper-arousal, where you're on the fight or flight. Your adrenals are on hardwire. You're trying to fix yourself up. You're trying to fix your house, fix your life. You're on a little bit of a paranoia. In other words, just not at peace. Your body is perhaps experiencing some muscle fatigue where you're armoring or constantly clenching your muscles. You might not realize this, but this oftentimes is a result of being in a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, someone who has used the tools of emotional manipulation and have caused a sense that you have to outdo yourself in order to stay in the relationship. In other words, oftentimes people who stay with these people don't know, they're not aware of what has gone on in the relationship. In other words, they tend to think, well, this is just an amazing relationship based on the love bombing stage or based on my assessment. I can never get somebody else like this, or this person is my perfect match and I need to work even harder for them, or I need to, keep myself raked over the coals to figure out what I did wrong, and then go through the barrage of I'm sorries and I will change, and then suppress really sort of your inner truth, your inner light in the meantime, in order to keep the relationship even at a status quo or quote unquote in the relationship basis, or where the potential for the relationship might be there. So it's an over obligation, which sets this into motion. It's perpetuating the hyper arousal or fight or fear or flight sort of hyper arousal state that is set up in the relationship with these individuals. And really that's part of the limbic system, is part of the old brain, the mammalian brain, where we were in survival mode. If you had to flee a saber-toothed tiger, if you could not have dinner, you would have to hunt. You'd have to be on this hyper-arousal, the eyes widening, the pulse rapiding, the heart beating fast, your adrenals pumping to give you that shot of energy. This is known as hyper-arousal or fight or flight. And so oftentimes this hyper-arousal can continue like an aftershock to a earthquake. You've heard of an earthquake and it registers a certain amount and then there's an aftershock. Well, the hyperarousal and then the emotional flashbacks continue in the same effect in those people whom they have targeted. In other words, you're playing it over and over again in your mind. What did I do wrong? I can't believe I did this. I can't believe he did that. I can't believe he did this. I can't believe she said that. So you're going through the hyperarousal states. And it is very important to acknowledge this in a somatic response, sort of a survival mode response within yourself, and how it can lead to other activities which are then inextricably tied to hyperarousal, such as constantly working out, chronic workaholism, overspending, over-debting, over-obligating yourself. In other words, scheduling yourself down to the millisecond when you have to be places. People can be perfectionistic with their own self-abuse. They can really, amp it up, even take it to the next level, beyond the level of emotional abuse that was originally inflicted by the narcissist or psychopath, because then the self-assessment comes into play. In other words, well, I really want to be lovable. I really want to be worthy. I, as a human being, really want to be engaged with. So I'm going to hyper-arouse. In other words, this is what your subconscious is doing. And so in order to detect this, you can look at, some of your symptoms yourself and realize how this has perpetuated a ring of thoughts, behaviors, and emotions which have led to this hyperarousal. And so, and hyperarousal just means, pushing yourself beyond the brink, almost into despair, to try to keep a semblance of sanity or composure or being intact in the relationship. And so if this has been an occurrence within yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit, your psychology, it's very important to flip that and come into a very relaxed body. It is okay. Many people who have been with a narcissist for years or decades have not been able to feel okay for quite a long period of time. They have remained in this hyperarousal state. They have, engaged in the overeating to try to quench, or to give themselves energy, overspending, over-obligating themselves, over-debting, or becoming a workaholic in order to compensate for this feeling of a hyper-arousal and being set that into motion and needing to keep that relationship intact. So, if you're feeling, the adrenal fatigue, being exhausted, just the somatic discomfort of tense muscles, and then setting up the other diseases and disorders into play. The chronic, degenerative disease, all the other, arthritic from pushing yourself, wearing yourself out. Do you see how this all connects? So realize it's very important to give yourself the okay, give yourself the green light that it's okay to just relax and be and exist, and to be comfortable, and to feel self-love, self-gratitude, self-worth, and love, and knowing that you are loved. As I call, get into the body talk of self-love. Get into the feeling talk of peace. Get into the feeling talk of harmony. Let your body feel these emotions, these vibrations, this energy, this presence, and learn to instruct your body to somatically feel these new feelings. Because the body talks, even without having to give it instruction, it just will go. It is run by the subconscious mind. The body is the subconscious mind. So realize then you have to then give yourself a vision, an image, a feeling of being at peace. And being at peace can be a placid lake, it can be a mountaintop, it can be a valley, it can be a green meadow, it can be a beautiful highway, whatever it is that evokes the feeling of peace within you. Just call that forth to you now. And just let that resonate to you. Just let that be absorbed. Just draw that in. Just absorb that into your body. And allow yourself to become very absorbed in that feeling of peace. And somatic relaxation, meaning your muscles are relaxed, your musculature, your skeleture, it is all just coming together. You're not trying to force or do, you're just allowing yourself to be. And if you can then just allow yourself to give yourself permission for this somatic comfort, and then reaffirm and validate to yourself, I am worthy, I am lovable, I can trust myself, and I can set up boundaries and protect myself in this feeling, and I can furthermore draw this feeling into my various other activities during the day, you'll begin to realize and catch yourself from the moments when you launch or pounce into the hyper-arousal states, the fight or flight, the feeling of threat, the feeling of danger, of being criticized, the social anxiety, all the ramifications that go with that, and realize that is just, begin to name it within yourself. Go, okay, I got it. That is hyper-arousal state. No need to go there. Boom, done. That's hyper-arousal state. That's fear. I'm not going there. Boom, done. That is leading me to fatigue, adrenals, my adrenals being taxed, not going there. And just begin to reset your own neurophysiology, your own hardware, by just using that feeling command, that feeling body talk, to get yourself to relax there. Because a lot of people who've been around a narcissist, if their relationship has been based on conditional love, they are used to being programmed or conditioned to feeling like it is what they do, not who they are, that is lovable. In other words, it's only themselves at their finest hour that is loved. It is not just their very self that is loved. So it's contingent, it's condition-based. And that causes the fight or flight, because if you don't have everything in place for the narcissist, covert narcissist, or the psychopath, and then you are no longer lovable, do you see how your world can drop on a dime? You're holding up, the world with a tiny pinky finger. It is all based on the conditions, the external, and not on the internal, the genuine, the authentic, the everlasting, the infinite. So hopefully you will be able to distinguish between these two states, label the one that's giving you the trouble, and then come back into your body talk, your body speak of feeling peace, of feeling safe, of feeling self-trust, and a sense of knowing. In other words, it's okay that I know what I know that I know. And I know what manipulation is, and I know that I don't need to take that, and that is not required for me to be a success, to be happy, to be lovable. I'm able to see and distinguish and know the difference, and my body will tell me so. It is your body, peace and harmony with you here today, and I hope that these videos help. Much love to the Empowered Harmonizers. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.